Hey guys, we're going to be decorating the New Year's Eve kit. I've got everything set out, my cookies, sprinkles, icing, my skewer or scribe tool, and a clean paper towel. What you do not see is that I have a fan right over here off camera. A fan is going to help you help your cookie dry in between steps if there's multiple steps. And it's not required if it just takes a little bit of time off the drying process. So I'll tell you more about that when we get there. So obviously we've got some fun New Year's Eve cookies going on, and these are obviously up to you. There's a lot of different things you can do with them. The numbers don't have to look like any certain thing, so you can really get creative. But I'm going to show you a few techniques that you might want to try out on your cookies, and hopefully you find fun. So the first thing we want to do is we want to look at our icing bags, and we want to make sure that there's no color separation in our icing. And if there is, it's totally okay, but you want to mix that bag back up and make sure that all the icing looks the same. Sometimes when they are left alone for a while, the icing will separate, and that's totally okay. Just mix it back up and you're good to go. All right. And then when we are cutting open our icing bags, I'm going to show you. There's a seam that goes along the bag. Excuse all the food color on my hands. And you're going to find that seam, and then you're going to turn it on its side. When you turn it on its side, you're going to flatten that tip off, just like that. And you're going to take some sharp scissors, and we're going to cut straight across the tip, just like that. You guys want to start small because you can get bigger if you want to, but it's hard to go backwards, right? So now that that tip is cut, we're going to find that seam again, and we're going to push down on the seam all the way to the end, and that's going to open up our icing tip, just like that. Okay. What I want to show you first is our champagne or Martinelli's bottle. We're going to do a fun technique with that. So the first thing is we're going to take our gold, and we're going to do the top part of the bottle kind of like the foil wrapping, okay? And so I'm going to start right here at this point, and we're going to come down like a V, like this, over here. Now you guys will notice when I'm piping my icing, that's doing the outline, I'm going to get really close to the cookie, and I'm going to apply gentle pressure, and as soon as the icing hits that cookie, I'm going to lift up and I'm going to drop my line of icing like a rope, okay? Just like that. And I'm going nice and slow and steady. I'm applying pressure the whole way. And when I come back to the end, I'm going to stop and touch down. All right? Now that's outlined, we're going to fill it in. So when we fill it in, we are going to do the same thing we did when we were piping, except we're going to apply a lot more pressure, and we're going to get this like bead of icing, right? And we're going to go all the way along the outline. Make sure you're touching the outline, and fill in this entire space. All right, and take your scribe tool or your skewer and make that icing nice and even. And if you need some help, you can always stick the cookie and give it a little shake. That'll even things out. Okay, that's the first part of that one, and I'm actually going to stick it in front of the fan so that it can dry a little more quickly. For this next step, you're going to want to let this part dry for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I'll show you what we're going to do with it next. Okay? So to our numbers, let's go to our numbers. We'll do this number 2 first, and we're going to do a wet on wet technique, which means you're using wet icing with wet icing. I'm going to show you again how to open the bags. Here's our seam right here. Flip it over, flatten that tip, cut straight across with sharp scissors, just like that. Find that seam again and push it open, okay? And so with our number 2, like I said, we're gonna do a wet on wet technique, and we're gonna do some lines, and we're gonna manipulate those lines with our scribe tool. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna do gray for the base. So I usually like to start in a corner. There's not really a lot of corners on it too. I mean, there's one right there, but I'm gonna start right here. And remember, we're gonna apply gentle pressure, Let the icing fall and hit the cookie, and then drop your rope of icing all the way around the outside. Go nice and slow, very gentle pressure here. And when you're going to change directions, see how I stopped pressure? My line is just hanging out there. We're going to touch down and then pick up and go again and apply pressure again and go the other direction. All right, all the way around to where you started. Okay, now that it's outlined, we're going to go ahead and fill it in. So again, we're applying firmer pressure this time, and we're going to go all the way around the outside first, just like this. Keep going. If you miss a spot, it's okay. We'll go back and fix it with our scribe tools. Make sure there's icing all the way in there. And then we'll take our scribe tool, make sure it's clean. You don't want to drag the yellow in there. The gold, excuse me. It's gold, not yellow. And then just make sure it goes all the way to the edges and covers up any empty spots. Again, give it a little shake, like that. All right, so while this icing is still wet, we're gonna put some gold and white lines on it and then have some fun with the skewer tool. So I'm going to go straight across. So I'm gonna start right here. Straight across with the gold lines. All the way down the two. Okay, and then I'm gonna pick up the white and do the same thing with the white. Now, when you start using your icing bags in different ways, you wanna make sure that the tip is always clean. I always just use my clean fingers and swipe off that tip and make sure you're starting with it clean. Otherwise, if there's like icing already coming out, it can affect the way that your line looks. All right, so I'm just gonna put a white line in between all those gold ones. There's a little break here because of the shape of the number. Keep going. Keep going, very good. Okay, so we're gonna have some fun with our skewer. Make sure it's clean. And we're gonna start and we're just gonna go up and down and drag our skewer through. And we don't wanna drag all the way to the cookie underneath. We just wanna stay on top of the icing. So there I went down. Now I'm gonna go up. I'm actually gonna continue that up here. Okay. Make sure you're wiping off your skewer tool in between each pass. Otherwise you're gonna get some muddy colors. Okay, and I'm just alternating up. And down. Oops. We'll do one more. This one's going up. And up. All right, and if you see these pickups are sticking up around the edges, just take your scribe tool and knock them down a little bit, just like that. And it makes a really cool pattern. And it'll dry all together like that because we did the wet icing on wet icing. So there's no like bumps or anything. It's nice and flat and smooth. Okay, there we go. Very cool. All right, on to our zero. I'm gonna show you a different technique with the zero. Now this one looks kind of funny at first, but I promise it's gonna end up kind of cool. We're gonna use all three of our colors here, and we're going to outline our zero, and then we're gonna do splotches of each color and then swirl them around. And it's gonna have like a tie-dye effect to it. So I'm gonna outline it with my gold. All right, so I'm gonna start in the middle. Again, we're applying gentle pressure to the icing bag, and once the icing hits the cookie, we're gonna lift up and drop our rope all the way around. Then we're gonna do the same thing on the outside. Okay, You'll notice I'm lifting up quite a bit. I feel like I have more control kind of the further away I am from the cookie. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive, but it's true. All right, so now that we're outlined, we're gonna do just some big splotches of gold. And this, there's no rhyme or reason to this. Just put it in a bunch of different spots. Okay. Big splotches, little splotches, all over the place. And then we're gonna come in with our gray. We're gonna do some splotches of gray. We wanna make sure we get to the edges at least. All right. Now I know it seems like I'm going really fast here. That's because with these wet on wet techniques, we don't want to give the icing time to dry. Royal icing is, it takes actually up to 8 hours to dry, but it starts drying immediately as soon as it hits the air. So that's something to remember. We're kind of in time sensitive mode when we're doing these kind of techniques. All right, you can see I still have some gaps here, but I'm gonna show you what I wanna do. So with my scribe tool, I'm gonna dip it in the icing and I'm gonna make swirling motions. I'm gonna go all the way around the cookie. All right. And while I'm doing that, I'm crossing through those empty spots so that they all get filled in. It goes all the way to the edge of the cookie, and it's making this really awesome marbled design. And you don't want to do too much swirling. I know it's fun, but too much is gonna just turn your colors muddy. Everything's gonna turn into one big blob of color. And we want to still be able to see all the different colors. So the gold, the white, and we'll call it silver. We won't call it gray. All right, so that's our zero. Pretty cool, right? You can always add a few more swirls if you think it needs it. I think that's looking pretty awesome. All right, so that's 2 down. All right, with the other number 2, I want to show you a plaid technique. So we're gonna do this one white. All right. So with our white, we're going to apply gentle pressure, drop our line of icing all the way around the cookie. Like this. All right, and now we fill it in. All the way around the edges first. In the middles. Okay, take your clean skewer. Make sure it's always clean. Okay, and move that icing around so it's nice and even. If you see it up here, it's hard for me to see that spot up there with the camera in my face. I always have to peek around and make sure that it's filled in. Give it a little shake, just like so. Okay. All right, so we're gonna drop some lines on this to make it look like plaid. Okay, we're gonna start with gray. All right, and I'm just gonna do some vertical lines. So again, with the 2, it's kind of a challenging shape because it's got all these like cutouts and it doubles back and stuff like that. But just try to continue your lines straight across as if they were being laid as one line. So I'm gonna do one going up this way, one going up the middle. I'm gonna stop there and pick up, start again, and one more over here. All right. And then I'm gonna go the opposite direction. I'm gonna go horizontal now. Like this. Like that. Okay. And then we're gonna take our yellow. And our yellow is gonna go on the top side of our horizontal lines. Just like this. Okay, and now it's gonna go on the right side of our vertical lines. There you go, and you've got a plaid number 2. Pretty awesome. All right, for our number 1, we're gonna scooch this one out of the way so you can see them all. Here we go. For our number 1, we are gonna have some fun with polka dots. Okay, so I'm gonna, this one's gonna be gold. So again, we're gonna outline, go all the way around the number. This one's a little more squared off than our other numbers, so it's kind of a fun change. Remember, every time you change direction, you're gonna touch the tip of the icing bag down to the cookie and pick up and go the other way. All right, once it's outlined, we fill it in. Don't be afraid of too much icing. All right. Now, of course, you can add sprinkles to any of these cookies. I am showing you these techniques on the number cookies, so I'm not using a ton of sprinkles, but they are obviously there for you to use and do whatever you'd like with. I'm gonna do polka dots here, but it would be fun to use our sprinkles and use those round pieces as the polka dots instead, if you'd like. I'm gonna do some big polka dots with the white. And when you're doing polka dots, you're holding the bag straight up and down and you're pushing firmly so that it creates one big dot. All right. And then I'm gonna grab the silver and I'm gonna do some smaller dots. Give it a little fun. And then I'm gonna take my white again and I'm gonna do some itty bitty dots. Some variation, that's what I was trying to say. Some variation in the dots so that they don't look so uniform. Very cool. Then you have your 1. All right, so our 2021, we have finished just like that. Looks pretty cool. I'm gonna grab my Martinelli's bottle, and it's had a little bit of time to dry. It is not fully dry by any means, but it's got a little crust on the top. Now, to make this look like a foil wrapping, we are actually gonna take our skewer tool. I've turned it around. This is the sharp side, this is the dull side, and we're actually gonna mess it up. So we're gonna take our skewer tool and we're just going to make some indents around here. Give it some texture so that it looks like gold foil on the top of the champagne bottle. Now, because we let it dry a little bit, it's holding this texturizing that we are doing to it, right? So that looks kind of fun. Awesome. Okay, so for the bottom of the bottle, I'm going to pipe and flood it with white, and then we're gonna make it look like there's a little seal across it, okay? So right here where the gold foil part starts, we're going to pipe our outline of white and go all the way around. And down there. I want to flood right up next to the gold part. And here we go, keep flooding. All right. Get all those spots filled in, give it a little shake. All right, and I'm gonna do some silver stripes right across the middle part. Maybe we'll do 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we're going to put a yellow dot right in the middle and kind of make it look like a seal. Okay, and I'm actually going to take one of my sprinkles here. Let's see, should I do the silver or the gold? We'll do silver. So I'm going to take my little silver sprinkle here, just like this. I'm going to drop it right there in the middle, so it looks like a seal. Very cool. All right, let's go our numbers, our champagne bottle. Let's do our star really quick. And our star, I'm just gonna go crazy with sprinkles on, okay? So let's make this guy, what color should we do? We'll make it gold, just standard star color, right? So we're gonna start by outlining like always. Remember, every time you change direction, you're gonna stop and touch down to the cookie a little bit. All right, and then we're gonna fill it in. Nice and full of icing. Don't want to miss any spots. Make sure all the icing goes to the edges. Give it a little shake. Okay. And I'm gonna look at my icing. We've got some fun, my sprinkles. We've got some fun chunky sprinkles in here. So I'm gonna put a black one right in the middle. And then I'm just gonna throw some sprinkles on each part of the star. Got these big fun sequins. There's some sugar shards in there. There's some pearls. All kinds of fun stuff. And if you go, there should be some really tiny sprinkles down at the bottom. And then you can use those to kind of fill in the gaps. And if you ever don't like the way that your sprinkles fall, you can always take your skewer tool and just move them back up. Move them back into place so that they're on the icing, and they will dry in place with the icing, so you don't have to worry about them falling off later. It'll all be one big happy family. All right. So there we go. We have decorated our cookies. I hope you had fun. I hope you have a good New Year's and get creative with these cookies. Remember, these take 6 to 8 hours to fully dry, if you can wait that long before you do them. And then they'll be firm like a candy coating, so you can package them, you can do whatever you'd like with them, and the icing will be dry. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys later.